Washington is shaken as a federal judge dares to order the arrest of Karoline Leavitt, the 27-year-old, who challenged the system with sharp truth from the White House briefing room. She ignited a fire of justice, turning a courtroom into a battleground for the entire nation. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. Weeks ago at the White House podium, her voice, sharp, confident, brimming with Gen Z spirit, rang out like an alarm bell. Any federal judge who dares to block policies protecting American workers, she said, each word clear as a blade, is standing with privilege, not justice. That declaration was an arrow aimed straight at Judge Malcolm Greer, who had just signed an order blocking the Trump administration's tariff policy, a policy not just a trade counterpunch to China and Canada, but the last armor for millions of American workers for rusted out towns, for borderland farmers. It was the one thing still holding them upright. Greer snuffed it out like one might imagine Leavitt with fierce loyalty to Trump and the working class didn't hesitate to strike back. And now she's no longer at the podium, she stands before the bar. No microphone, no prepared speech, only heavy silence, and the piercing gaze of a powerful judge waiting to drop the gavel. Judge Greer adjusts his glasses, his stare cold as a scalpel, and speaks low, hard, cold as marble. Miss Leavitt, he says, you've been summoned to answer for conduct undermining this court's authority through public statements. Each word lands on the wooden floor with the echo of a verdict, but Leavitt doesn't flinch, doesn't dodge. She refused counsel, a decision that left the White House stunned. If I'm here for what I said, she told her team, gripping her husband's hand, Nicholas Riccio, her quiet pillar of strength, then I'll say it myself, no one else. The courtroom is a pressure cooker ready to burst, not a single seat left. Reporters cram in, breathless cameras, worrying lenses capturing every expression, especially Karoline Leavitt's eyes, calm, resolute, as if the packed room doesn't exist behind her. No crowd of voters or PR team, instead a vivid portrait of forgotten America, a steel worker from Kentucky, shoulders draped in a worn Union jacket like battle armor, a single mother from Ohio clutching a framed photo of her son who once dreamed of engineering but now delivers packages full-time, a veteran, legs no longer whole, eyes cold as steel, still on a battlefield, now pinning his faith on Leavitt. They weren't invited, no press release summoned them, no one led them here. They came for a promise spoken not from a podium but from the heart. If I fail, Leavitt once said, I'll carry your stories with me to the end. And they believed. They piled into creaky buses, stuffed into old pickups, driving through cold nights and early rain, not to shout, not to wave signs. They came to stand beside the one woman who dared turn their pain into a proclamation. Judge Greer leans forward, his gaze cold as steel, his voice steady, carrying the weight of a system unaccustomed to challenge. Miss Leavitt, your statements have been deemed incitement against judicial authority. Do you have anything to say? The room holds its breath, the air thickens, suffocating. Karoline Leavitt lifts her head, no evasion, not a crease on her brow. Her voice rings out calm, sharp as a blade. I speak for those you never see, your honor. A moment explodes in silence, a gasp from the back. A reporter frees his hand, hovering over the keyboard. A camera pans, slightly zooming in on Leavitt's unblinking eyes. She stands before the bench, her heels clicking lightly on the wooden floor as she steps forward, her piercing gaze sweeping over Judge Malcolm Greer. The judge in a stern black suit sits high in his chair, hands on the desk, his deep voice carrying the authority of one accustomed to commanding a courtroom. Leavitt, he begins, each syllable delivered with the precision of a federal judge. Your statements at the press briefing have been deemed a direct challenge to judicial authority. Do you intend to retract them? The question hangs sharp as a blade, but Leavitt only offers a faint smile, not arrogance but the confidence of someone who knows what they're fighting for. Miss Leavitt, did you hear my question? Greer asks again, his tone icy yet dignified. Leavitt raises her head higher, her voice clear, not loud but precise to every syllable. Your honor, I retract nothing. Your ruling stripped hope from American workers, the ones this administration is protecting. Murmurs ripple through the room. A reporter in the corner types frantically on a laptop. A camera shifts to capture Leavitt and close up the crowd behind her. Workers, mothers, veterans, sits taller as if her words are a flame warming them. Greer strikes his gavel, the sound silencing the room. You are overstepping, Miss Leavitt, he says, his voice calm but laced with warning. This court is not a stage for your political speeches. Leavitt tilts her head, her eyes glinting with defiance. I'm not giving a speech, your honor. I'm speaking for those out there, the ones without microphones, without press rooms, who deserve to be heard. She turns slightly, her gaze sweeping the crowd. A man with calloused hands, a woman clutching a worn purse. They're here and I speak for them. The courtroom erupts in silence. No one speaks, but the power of the moment ripples outward. At the White House, her team watches on screens, an aide whispering, she's not just a press secretary, she's a warrior. In New Hampshire, her mother sits before the TV, hands clasped, proud yet anxious. Greer remains unmoved, but his hands tighten on the desk. You are treading on contempt of court, he warns, his voice professional but his eyes betraying a hint of tension. Do you understand the consequences? Leavitt responds, her voice softer but brimming with strength. Consequences, I understand them well, but if speaking the truth is a crime, I'm ready to pay the price, and I'm not standing here alone. She gestures to the crowd, and in response a man stands, a steel worker cap, backward, eyes resolute. Then another, a mother with disheveled hair, rises. Then a veteran leaning on a cane raises his head high. They say nothing, but their actions echo louder than any speech. Cameras capture it all. A short clip from the trial goes viral with millions of views. Captioned, Karoline Leavitt is fearless. Trump from the White House posts, Karoline is the voice of the people. This court should be ashamed. The post garners thousands of shares and moments. Leavitt, standing in the courtroom, feels the weight of this moment. She's not just a 27-year-old from New Hampshire, she's a flag bearer for those never invited into rooms of power like this. Greer strikes his gavel again, the sound sharp and cold. Miss Leavitt, this is my final warning, he says, his voice steady, professional to the last detail. This court does not tolerate defiance. Leavitt smiles faintly, not to provoke, but to affirm, I'm not defying your honor. I'm just doing my job, speaking the truth. America needs to hear. Murmurs rise again, but this time they don't stop. The crowd begins to clap, slowly, then stronger, like the beat of a war drum. The courtroom sinks into a stifling silence, as if the entire space holds its breath before a spark ignites. Karoline Leavitt stands firm before the bench, her eyes locked on Judge Malcolm Greer, who grips his gavel tightly, his face tense but maintaining the dignity of a federal judge. The crowd behind Leavitt, workers, mothers, veterans, sits motionless, but their eyes burn like torches ablaze with faith in the woman facing down the system. Media cameras stir, lenses trained on Leavitt, ready to capture a historic moment. Greer, with a low and sharp voice, breaks the silence. Miss Leavitt, he says, each word chosen like a verdict. Your statements have crossed the bounds of lawful discourse. You have publicly challenged the integrity of this court, and I cannot tolerate it. He pauses, his gaze sweeping the courtroom as if to assert his authority. I am forced to find your conduct in contempt of court. A faint whisper ripples through the crowd, but Leavitt doesn't waver. She stands tall, hands clasped, her red dress still vivid like a declaration of war. Your honor, Leavitt responds, her voice gentle but charged with strength. I'm not challenging the court, I'm only asking who will protect the people you're ruling. Left behind, her words ripple like a wave, stirring the crowd. A steel worker in the front row clenches his fist. A mother holding her child nods slightly. Greer strikes his gavel, the sharp sound cutting through the air. Enough, he declares, his voice maintaining its formality but betraying its firmness. Leavitt, I order your immediate arrest for contempt of court. The courtroom freezes. A bailiff steps forward, handcuffs glinting under the lights. Leavitt takes a deep breath, her eyes sweeping the crowd, the faces of the Americans she promised to represent. She removes the slim watch from her wrist, places it on the bench, then slips her purse off her shoulder, her movements slow, almost ceremonial. If this is the price for speaking the truth, she says, her voice ringing through the room, I accept it, but I want all of America to know I'm not standing alone. The crowd erupts. A veteran stands abruptly, old army cap in hand, followed by a mother, then a steel worker. They don't chant, don't shout, their unity resounds louder than any noise. The officer approaches, cuffing Leavitt. The metal clinks lightly, but she doesn't bow her head. Cameras capture every second, her gleaming blonde hair, the striking red dress, and her resolute eyes. The image spreads instantly on social media. A short courtroom video explodes, with millions of views. Captioned, Karoline Leavitt handcuffed for speaking the truth. Outside the courthouse, a crowd gathers, holding handmade signs. Karoline is our voice. A worker from Ohio, standing under harsh sunlight, tells a reporter, she says what we can't. A single mother from Kentucky, clutching her child, adds, she's standing up for my kid, for his future. Peaceful protests spread, not partisan but a unity of those who feel forgotten by the system. In a temporary holding cell, Leavitt sits on a cold metal bench but refuses bail. I'm not leaving until the truth is heard, she tells the officer, her voice calm, quintessentially Gen Z, direct, unyielding. She asks for a phone, and though denied, a guard secretly records her through a surveillance camera. In the video, Leavitt looks straight at the lens. I'm here for those without a voice, workers, mothers, veterans. They deserve to be heard. The brief clip, just seconds long, spreads like wildfire, racking up millions of views in hours. The courtroom door closes, but the echo of Karoline Leavitt's handcuffing reverberates through the federal courthouse in Washington. Outside, sunlight bathes the stone-paved streets where hundreds have gathered, hands raised with hastily written signs. Karoline is the people's voice. Their chants are not loud, but the resolve in their eyes. Workers, farmers, women, veterans, is a silent symphony radiating unstoppable strength. Meanwhile, on social media, Leavitt's image with her blonde hair and unyielding gaze becomes a flame burning through geographic boundaries. In the cell, Leavitt sits on the steel bench, no phone, no team, only a piece of paper and a pen. She begged from a guard. She writes quickly, each line a call to action. Don't stay silent, tell your story. Somehow the message gets out. A guard secretly snaps a photo of the paper, posting it online with the caption, from Karoline in jail. The post spreads like wind, sparking a wave of shared personal stories. A worker from Pennsylvania writes, "I lost my job to imports. Karoline gets it." A woman from Mississippi adds, "I'm raising 3 kids alone. She gives me hope." These stories, brief but raw, transform Leavitt from press secretary into a symbol of truth. Outside the courthouse, proud grows a group of Ohio workers, carries a large banner painted in red. "We stand with Karoline." A veteran in a worn army jacket stands amid the crowd, telling a CNN reporter, "I fought for this country, but I never felt heard until Karoline spoke up." A Fox News reporter a few feet away captures a young mother holding a photo of her son, saying, "She was handcuffed for my son's future." The protests aren't partisan but a bond among those exhausted by Washington's empty promises. The pressure begins to weigh on Malcolm Greer in his office. He watches the news, the TV screen showing the crowd outside the courthouse. An aide steps in, voice low, "Your Honor, the press is questioning the impartiality of your ruling." Greer, with the calm of a seasoned judge, replies, "The court is not swayed by crowds." In the holding cell, Leavitt receives a clandestine message from a guard. "The whole country is behind you." She smiles, not out of triumph, but knowing those she represents are speaking out. Another secretly recorded video captures her in the cell telling the guard, "Tell everyone I'm okay," and keep sharing their stories. The low-quality video spreads fiercely, garnering millions of shares. A user writes, "She's in jail but her spirit is free." Protests spread beyond Washington. In Pittsburgh, steelworkers gather outside a factory holding signs, "Karoline is us." In Boise, farmers hold a peaceful rally singing the national anthem under a gray sky. In Cleveland, mothers and high school students stand in the rain holding candles, praying for Leavitt. These moments, captured on phones, flood social media, creating a rare tapestry of unity. An MSNBC reporter remarks, "Karoline Leavitt has turned a trial into a people's movement." Pressure on Greer mounts. The press digs into his ruling, questioning his motives. An online article reads, "Is Greer siding with workers or the elite?" On social media, a user posts a photo of Greer leaving the courthouse, captioned, "This judge thinks he can silence Karoline. He's wrong." Greer, though outwardly calm, feels the heat. An aide reports, "Your Honor, Congress is discussing a judicial inquiry." Greer doesn't respond, but his hand tightens around a pen, a sign of unease. Under Pittsburgh's gray sky, hundreds of steel workers stand shoulder to shoulder, their breath forming white clouds in the cold air. A large banner scrolled in black marker flutters, "Karoline is our torch." Thousands of miles away in Boise, farmers gather in a barren field holding phones, live streaming as they raise a sign, "We are Karoline." From Cleveland to Mississippi, from forgotten small towns to industrial cities, a nonpartisan movement ignites, carrying Karoline Leavitt's name like a call to action. Though confined in a cold cell, she has become the flag of an America demanding its voice. This movement didn't start with politicians or fancy boardrooms. It began with ordinary people who saw themselves in the image of Leavitt in handcuffs. In Detroit, a group of auto mechanics holds a rally outside their shop, sharing stories of jobs threatened by imports. A weathered man tells the crowd, "Karoline knows what we're losing. She dared to say it." In Montgomery, a group of women, from homemakers to office workers, gathers in a park holding Leavitt's photo, singing folk songs about justice. A young girl with glasses takes the mic. "She's not just a press secretary, she's our sister." Social media becomes the movement's battlefield. It's not just a trend, it's a movement. A video from Mississippi showing a farmer in a field saying, "Karoline's jailed for defending us, don't let her stand alone," racks up millions of views on TikTok. Cleveland high schoolers create videos blending lives with quotes from her speeches set to emotional music. A user writes, "She makes me want to stand up, and I'm only 16. Hosts from across America, from Alaska to Florida, share personal stories. An electrician out of work, a mother worried for her kids' future, a veteran feeling abandoned. They don't know Leavitt, but they feel her in the cell. Leavitt is unaware of the movement scale. She only gets fragmented updates from a guard. They're protesting in Ohio. Students in Boise made a video about you. She smiles, jotting another line in a small notebook, "Let them speak, that's our strength." A guard, moved by her resilience, secretly snaps a photo of the page and posts it on X. The image, Leavitt's handwritten words on scrap paper, becomes a new symbol shared millions of times. A user writes, "She's jailed but her words are free." The movement isn't limited to the people. Politicians begin to speak out. A senator from Pennsylvania, in a congressional speech, demands, "We need to rethink justice when someone like Karoline Leavitt is punished for speaking the truth." Mississippi's governor, at a press conference, declares, "Karoline is a symbol of courage. We stand behind her." These words, broadcast live, amplify the movement, drawing international media attention. The BBC publishes "American Woman Turns Trial into a People's Movement." Al Jazeera writes, "Karoline Leavitt from the White House to the heart of America. The protests remain peaceful, but their power cannot be ignored." In Cleveland, under drizzling rain, hundreds stand outside City Hall holding candles, singing the national anthem. A student in a soaked hoodie tells a reporter, "Karoline makes me believe I can change something." In Boise, farmers erect a temporary straw statue inscribed with "Karoline, thank you." The image of the statue spreads with a user commenting, "This isn't just a movement, it's a revolution." Pressure on the judicial system intensifies. Journalists begin questioning Judge Malcolm Greer's motives. A major newspaper analysis reads, "Is Greer's ruling more political than just?" On social media, a prominent account posts, "Greer thought he could silence Karoline, he's awakening a nation." Calls to Greer's office surge, demanding he lift the arrest order. A group of volunteer lawyers in Washington files a petition to review the case, yet Greer remains silent, though public pressure is shaking his wall of authority at the White House. Leavitt's team works tirelessly. An aide with a cold coffee on the desk tells a colleague, "She's changed how we see justice." Nicholas Riccio, Leavitt's husband, appears on TV, his voice steady. "Karoline doesn't want fame, she wants justice for the voiceless." Trump, in a brief speech, calls the case a stain on the justice system, urging people to keep supporting Leavitt. His call pours fuel on the movement's fire. In New Hampshire, Leavitt's mother stands outside their home, speaking to reporters with shining eyes. "My daughter always fought for what's right. Now the whole country is fighting with her." Neighbors who once knew Leavitt as the girl playing softball now hold signs in their yards, "Karoline, we're proud of you." The movement isn't just about Leavitt, it's about an America rediscovering its unity. In the dimly lit office, the computer screen's glow illuminates Judge Malcolm Greer's tense face. A new email lands in his inbox titled simply, "The truth about your ruling." Attached are leaked documents, secret exchanges between Greer and a group of activists opposing Trump's tariff policy. The email's words cut like knives, "We must stop this policy at all costs," sent by a disgruntled court employee to a freelance journalist. The document spread rapidly, shaking the wall of authority Greer built around himself outside the "We Are Karoline" movement keeps growing. From small Montana towns to Miami's bustling streets, people gather not to shout, but to demand transparency. In Harrisburg, steel workers pitch tents outside City Hall, hanging a sign, "Justice for Karoline." An elderly woman clutching Leavitt's photo tells the crowd, "That girl is paying the price for us, don't let her be forgotten." These images, captured on phones, flood social media, each post a hammer blow to Greer's credibility. The leaked email becomes a media firestorm. Journalist from a major outlet publishes an analysis. Judge Greer coordinated with interest groups to block worker protection policies. The article includes evidence emails from Greer requesting strategic coordination to undermine the Trump administration. On social media, a prominent user posts, "Greer isn't a judge, he's a puppet of the elite." The post racks up millions of views with the hashtag Justice for Karoline. A TikTok video compiling the email excerpts with an emotional voiceover spreads like wildfire. "This is why they jailed Karoline. Congress can't stay silent." A bipartisan group of senators holds an emergency meeting demanding a judicial investigation into Greer's conduct. An Ohio senator, voice booming in the chamber, declares, "If a judge abuses power for politics, we cannot stay silent." A Nevada governor, in a televised interview, urges free Karoline Leavitt and review Greer's seat. These words, broadcast live, pour fuel on the movement's fire, galvanizing public resolve. Greer in his office feels the pressure. The phone rings incessantly. Press colleagues, even former allies and aides, steps in, voice trembling, "Your Honor." The crowd outside the courthouse has doubled. They're demanding you lift the arrest order. Greer, with a veteran judge's calm, responds, "The court operates by law, not street pressure." But his voice lacks its usual confidence. On his desk, a newspaper headline, "Blar Judge Greer faces a crisis of trust." Outside, the crowd isn't just workers or veterans. College students with backpacks and phones join protests, holding signs in fluorescent marker. "Karoline is the future." A group of women in Atlanta holds a prayer vigil, hand in hand, praying for justice. In a small Idaho town, children draw Leavitt's image and chalk on the sidewalk, writing, "She's our hero." These simple acts form a powerful tapestry of unity, amplified by social media into a voice too loud to ignore. Greer, though trying to maintain an unyielding facade, begins to waver. An old colleague over the phone warns Malcolm, "You're losing control, withdraw the order before it's too late." But Greer stays silent, his eyes fixed on the screen where images of Leavitt and the crowd keep appearing. The movement she sparked has spiraled beyond his control. Karoline Leavitt, from behind bars, has turned him from a powerful judge into a symbol of injustice. The morning sun streams through the high windows of the Washington federal courthouse, but in Judge Malcolm Greer's office, the air feels heavy as darkness. Before him lies a single sheet of paper, an order to drop the contempt of court charge. Against Karoline Leavitt, pressure from the public Congress and the leaked emails has cornered him. With a trembling hand, Greer signs his name, then pens a brief letter of resignation. "I step down to preserve the honor of the judicial system," he writes. But the pristine the nation knows he has lost. The prison gate swings open, and Karoline Leavitt steps out not as a prisoner but as a living symbol. The crowd outside, thousands from across America, stands in silence, their eyes gleaming. No cheers, no waving flags, only deep respect. Leavitt, in a simple blouse, hair tied high, pauses on the steps. She looks at the crowd, workers with worn boots, women with weary smiles, veterans with resolute eyes, and speaks, her voice clear. "Every one of you stood in that cell with me." Her words like a breeze touch every heart. Greer, in his final hours in his office, avoids the public. His resignation letter, read on television, carries a formal tone but cannot hide his defeat. "I step down for the good of the judicial system," he declares, but the press shows no mercy. An online article titles, "Judge Greer from Power to Humiliation." On social media, a user posts, "Greer thought he could jail Karoline. He didn't expect a nation behind her." Greer's downfall is not just personal, it's a sign of a system forced toward transparency. At the White House, Leavitt's team erupts in joy. A young aide hugging a colleague says, "She did what no one dared dream." Nicholas Riccio, Leavitt's husband, faces the press, voice choked. "Karoline fought for those who have no one. She's my light." President Trump, in a brief speech, praises Karoline Leavitt, "is a symbol of patriotism. She's made America proud." His words, broadcast live, affirm this victory belongs to a nation. The crowd outside the prison doesn't disperse. A weathered Pittsburgh worker steps forward, handing Leavitt a union pin. "You gave us hope," he says. A Boise mother gives her a handwritten letter from her daughter. "Miss Karoline, I want to grow up strong like you." Leavitt accepts, her eyes shining with emotion, but she holds back tears. "This isn't my victory," she says, voice steady. "This is your victory." In the days that followed, Leavitt didn't chase the spotlight. She returned to her office, sat among stacks of papers, and read letters from the public. One from a veteran read, "You gave me a reason to believe in America." Leavitt set the letter down, gazing out the window where sunlight streamed through. She knew this victory wasn't an end, but the start of a greater journey. Greer, now a shadow of himself, left Washington in silence. His name became a symbol of abuse of power, a warning to those who think they can stifle the truth. Karoline Leavitt, with her courage and resolve, turned a trial into a triumph for justice. She stood there among the crowd, not as a hero but as someone who carried a nation with her. The vast blue sky stretched over Nebraska's wheat fields, where Karoline Leavitt stood among farmers, listening to their stories of failed harvests and mounting debts. No microphone, no cameras, just a small notebook in hand. She jotted notes, nodded, and promised, "I'll carry your stories further." From Texas border towns to flood-ravaged Louisiana, Leavitt traveled across America, not seeking fame but to connect the pieces of a country yearning to be heard. She, a 27-year-old, once handcuffed, now a torch illuminating forgotten corners. Congress, feeling the pressure of the "We Are Karoline" movement, passed the Judicial Transparency Act, requiring judges to disclose communications to prevent abuse of power. A senator at the bill's signing ceremony declared, "Karoline Leavitt forced us to look in the mirror." The law, bearing her mark, became a legal legacy, ensuring justice isn't distorted by politics. Leavitt rejected the hero label at a youth forum in Ohio. She stood on stage, eyes bright but voice steady. "Patriotism isn't a medal, it's a responsibility." She spoke of her days in jail, not to boast, but to remind every American has the power to change. Students rose to applaud, not for her fame, but because she instilled belief in themselves. In small communities, children drew pictures of Leavitt, calling her the truth teller. A Montana drawing of her with a notebook shared on TikTok carried the caption, "She teaches us to speak up." Leavitt, though busy, always answered public letters, each word a tireless commitment. Her legacy wasn't in the spotlight, but in the people she inspired, from farmers to students, to believe their voices matter. In her final speech at a community conference, Leavitt looked at the crowd and said, "We don't just live in this country, we shape it." Her words, simple yet powerful, echoed across America. Karoline Leavitt wasn't just a symbol of justice, she was a reminder that one person with courage can awaken a nation. The story of Karoline Leavitt offers a profound lesson about the power of an individual voice in driving change in America in 2025, where political polarization and inequality still challenge society. Leavitt, a young press secretary, turned a trial into the "We Are Karoline" movement by daring to speak the truth about a tariff policy affecting workers. Her actions remind us that in a free country, every individual has the right to speak out against injustice, whether through a single post or confronting a judge. For example, when she live-streamed before the court, calling on the public to join, she sparked unity among workers, women, and veterans, those often overlooked. This teaches us that in modern life, social media can be a powerful tool to connect and amplify a collective voice. Moreover, Leavitt's rejection of the hero title and Her visits to communities like Nebraska and Louisiana show the value of humility, and listening Americans today can learn from her. Instead of seeking fame, focus on supporting those around you like farmers or jobless workers. The Judicial Transparency Act, a result of her movement, underscores that systemic change requires persistence and unity, not just fleeting protests. The lesson is clear: dare to stand up, use your voice on platforms, but always connect with real communities for lasting impact. Every small step, like Leavitt's notebook in a field, can change America. Subscribe to our channel to explore stories like Karoline Leavitt's of people who changed America with courage. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.